We'll call the meeting of the November 1, 2021 meeting of the Greenwood Board of Public Works and Safety to order at 5:30 p.m. A roll call, please, Amanda.
Mr. Baldwin.
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Rutherford.
Here.
Thank you.
The minutes of the regular session of October 18, 2021 have been distributed to members of the board. Any corrections, additions, or deletions from staff? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval as presented?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. First on our agenda tonight is Anna Himes, 1298 Column Brooks Circle. Anna, are you with us online?
Yes, I'm here.
Good evening. We have a memo in front of us, but tell us what you want to do.
We want to put a fence in our backyard. We're a corner lot, so if we didn't go into the encroachment, we could only extend that fence about 5 feet from our house. But if we go into the encroachment, we have another almost 40 feet to play with. So the fence would be a 4-foot tall black wrought iron. It's a Long Islander style.
We have this memo I mentioned is from Jeff Weaver, of our Community Development Services. Have you received a copy of that memo, Anna? It has some potential recommendations of the engineering division.
Yes, I received an email. Let me see if I can get to my email from this. Can you still hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. Yes, I received an email from Paul Peony. Is that who you're referring to?
Well, it's not the one I'm talking about, but that'll work. Probably the same
Okay.
one.
Yes, it has 3 following conditions, it says.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to focus on. Have you had a chance to review those conditions?
I have, yes. And we have, we actually contacted 811 when we contacted all of the utility companies to have them come out and mark everything.
Okay. And do you have any problem if the board would approve this request subject to those 3 conditions?
No, no problem with that. That's very reasonable.
Any questions for Anna? Is there a motion with respect to her request?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Those are all subject to those 3 conditions, I'm trusting.
Yes.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Oh, well, thank you very much. You too.
Chief. Chief wants to get rid of some stuff.
Yes, I do. Basically, I'm just here to ask to be able to dispose of some electronics. Most of these are cell phones that have accumulated over the years from, most of them are probably at least 10 years old that have been at the bottom of a file cabinet in the investigations division. Some donated from Best Buy, others brought in by other agencies that have never been picked up, but I don't think there are any of them that are under 10 years old, and none of them that are evident, so they're just collecting dust.
No longer needed, nothing, you're just going to actually dispose of them, not going to, these aren't things that go up for auction, anything like that, right?
No, I doubt that any of them would function. They're so outdated that no one would want them.
Chief, even the rose gold iPhone inside a pink glitter case has no value.
Well, it's sentimental
Was it when
value.
Jessica Simpson was running through Greenwood that she dropped that off?
The pink glitter case is probably worth more than the rose gold phone, but yeah.
We better talk to Molly about, make sure she doesn't want it back.
Sam, if you would like to put an offer on it, we could probably make that.
If you saw what we may do with in the legal department, we would die for a rose gold iPhone with a pink glitter case.
You walked into that and say.
I see a prank.
Well, I'll move that we approve the disposal request of the chief.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank
Thanks, chief. Have a good evening. Connor David, Dayton Freight Terminal and Maintenance. Connor, are you with us online?
Russ Hunnestoffel with MHT's on.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead. We have a memo in front of us as well from Paul Peony dated today. Have you seen that?
And I have not, no.
Okay, well, let's go through what your requests are.
Yeah, basically, right now, we have some performance bonds that were for work that was completed a little over about a year ago. We're just requesting that those performance bonds be released, the project be accepted, and then we have provided maintenance bonds in their place for until the maintenance is completed. So
Daniel, your take on this?
Yeah, that's all correct, Mr. So
Okay.
it is just release of the performance and acceptance of the maintenance guarantee.
Is there a motion on this?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
thank you, appreciate it.
Now we're going to go to American Structure Point for Grand Vista Subdivision. Josh, are you with us?
I am.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Good, good. Tell us what we're doing here.
We're building the first section of Grand Vista located northwest of Griffith Road and Worthsville Road. So we're seeking approval of our acceptance of our performance guarantee and then our inspection agreements.
Looks like the only suggested condition would be that we receive the original performance guarantees and that be reviewed and approved by the legal and engineering departments. Is that correct, Daniel? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. And this particular performance guarantee is specifically for erosion. On this project.
And it's the 50% up front fees, okay.
Yes.
Questions for Josh or for Mr. Johnson? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval?
I would move that we approve the request. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You. Next, we're gonna go to Andy Cash from Riley Engineering for the Rise Commercial District matter. Got you in person. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you for hearing this request for this encroachment of a sewer easement for landscaping. Since you last heard this request, we've been able to present an acceptable plan to Dale Davis's group, and they've approved that landscaping plan. That did require a waiver, which was also approved at the last planning commission meeting. So this developer will extend sanitary sewer south along Airport Parkway. And it's within that area along Airport and within the sewer easement that's highlighted there along Christie, where we would request this 5-foot landscape encroachment in that sanitary sewer easement. And coordinated this with Mr. Meyer, who I believe is in support of the encroachment also.
We have, I guess, maybe two separate things. We do the encroachment request, one, and then you've got some performance
Yes.
guarantees, inspection and testing agreement issue. Let's do the encroachment request for the landscaping first. Again, we have a memo in front of us, Andy, that talks about, well, first of all, have you seen that? It's got 4 conditions. Can't disrupt the flow of the stormwater. If there's any work that needs to be done in the easement by the city or other utilities, that it damages the landscaping, it's done at your expense.
Understood.
And then the encroachment agreement would be prepared by your office, Sam, and we would approve that. Any problems with any of those conditions?
No problem.
Okay. So let's talk about the landscaping encroachment request first. Is there a motion for that?
I'll move to approve that.
Subject to those 4 minimum?
Yes.
4 conditions?
Yes. Second.
And there's a second, further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes on that. And next, we've got some issues about performance guarantee, inspection and testing agreements. And Daniel, it looks like a pretty straightforward request from Paul Peony's November 1 memo.
That's correct.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Cash or for Mr. Johnson on that matter?
I move we approve the request.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Thanks very much. That cover everything you needed from us, Andy?
Did that cover item 2? The
Inspection and testing. yes.
Inspection, testing, agreement, and
The reason I ask is I know we're to receive an agreement for sanitary sewer service, some type of contract that's new that legal's working on, that the Utilities Regulatory Commission is requiring.
And that's part of the motion, is that one of the conditions was that to accept and execute the general sanitary sewer inspection testing agreements and ratify acceptance of 50% upfront fees. And so that's part of when that
I know
gets
it's,
done.
it's also kind of a side discussion as well. I mean, this is particularly for the performance guarantees in that list and in terms of the inspection and general and sanitary sewer inspection testing agreements.
So is Andy waiting on something from the
The
city,
contract.
the actual contract?
It's still in the works, if I'm not mistaken, Keith. Still in the works.
And that's, so that's not being resolved tonight. That will come
Correct.
before us at some point in the future.
Okay.
Okay? May get to see you again.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Jackie Briggs? Ms. Briggs, are you with us online?
I am with you online.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
We've got an encroachment request for you for Greenbrook Park 2, Lot 1. Tell us what, this is a signage issue. Tell us what we're doing.
We are requesting an encroachment. We're representing Echo Greenwood LLC, owners of 747 East County Line Road. And we are requesting an encroachment so that we can place a sign within the 40-foot D and UE easement running along the south side of County Line Road. The sign is 11 feet, 4 inches wide and 15 feet high. And we have sent out the letters. We've heard back from Johnson County REMC and Bargersville of Greenwood, both indicating they have no issue.
Jackie, do you also have a memo, or either you or Joe have maybe received regarding 4 proposed conditions that our engineering division would recommend to the board?
Yes,
Okay. Any problems with any of those recommended conditions?
no.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Briggs? If not, is there a motion on this matter?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
County Line Road is controlled by Indianapolis. Is there any approval that they need to get from the city of Indianapolis regarding that?
Not necessarily in this case, because it's well within, I guess, the city of Greenwood gets on our side. It's not within the public.
Not within the right of way.
Correct.
Anything else?
I would move that we approve the request subject to the conditions outlined in the report.
Okay. I'll second that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
You too.
Jared Burnett, Indiana American Water Company. Good evening.
Hey, good evening.
Tell us what's going on here. We've got a lot of information from us, and I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling to be able to understand.
Sure. So currently we have 3 projects underway here in Johnson County with Miller Pipeline, and I believe John Thomas with Miller Pipeline is online. We may ask him to answer some questions you might have.
Mr. Thomas, are you with us? Well, we'll see what we can do, Jared.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to provide the answers you need. But basically, I know there was a misunderstanding on their part earlier this year with the permitting that was required for this. I think since then, they've been able to complete all the requirements for the requisite permits for the projects. I believe they paid all their fees to date as well. And so I think some of the lingering questions are just where we're at with these projects and what our restoration plans are through the rest of the winter and the spring.
So these are all along Market Plaza, is that correct?
This, I think, the one that I was under the impression we're here to discuss tonight, yes, is the Market Plaza one just here.
On the graphic, we've got 3, 4, and 5. Are those different projects or just different areas you want to go?
No, it's all the same project, they're just different sheets,
Okay.
different plan sheets.
Daniel, we'll leave this over to you.
Yeah, what Jared just said is correct. It was really just the Market Plaza project that we asked Indian American Water to come in and present to the board the timings and their plan going forward due to its connection. You can kind of see it on the left side of the screen there, the connection they intend to make in Main Street that's going to impact traffic. And then also to inform the board about the work that they're going to have kind of on the other end of the job at Madison and Serena.
Hasn't this work already began?
Yes, they're almost done with this project. In fact, they've got a couple tie-ins to do and the restoration work is still remaining.
So are the tie-ins at the end of the project on Main Street? Madison?
Those are not complete yet, but they are. We're scheduled to have all this work done by the middle of this month. They're working on those tie-ins as we speak.
So are you asking for, are some of the issues traffic? and-
Sure, yeah. So
Okay.
part of their plan, I guess, all if you're able to go back to the first, that one right there. All right, so the text is a little small there on the right, on the left side of the screen, but they're going to they are requesting to narrow down traffic on Main Street from 2 lanes down to 1 lane with flaggers while that connection is being made. So if you're able to inform the board about what dates you're looking at, is it 1 day, multiple dates, and also
Timing.
specific times.
So I know that Miller recently submitted their MOT plan to the town for approval. I don't know if they've received feedback for that or not yet. We don't typically dictate means and methods to them on that kind of work. I was hoping John would be on the call to kind of speak to that, but typically a tie-in usually takes 4 hours. And with their MOT plan, I would imagine they'd be willing to work with you guys on when exactly you prefer that to be done. I know the morning times are a bit difficult with school bus routes. So if midday or evening time is better, or even overnight, we'd be willing to work with you on whatever timing works out best. I do know in some of the discussions I've had with them, as far as the flagging goes, I know there were some additional flagging efforts that you wanted to see. But they've been able to get some guys on board with being out there to be flaggers. So on our standpoint, the way we look at this, when we bid a project out, we require our contractors to comply with all local permitting and MOT plans. So anything they do has to be approved by the city before they can do it. So the MOT plan they submitted, if there is an item on there that you don't think covers what you want, we'll work with you on what you think it needs to take to get it done.
Do we have that plan?
So as far as I know, we did receive late, we received their MOT, we received their plan, the plan sheet for their improvements, but that one did not necessarily have an MOT plan for it or MOT description included unless there's been something uploaded or submitted in the last day or two.
Yeah.
As we requested coming to this meeting.
Yeah, and I believe either submitted on Friday evening or this morning at some point, the MOT plan, so it may just not be around yet. But I know that there was an updated plan submitted for that after the discussions were had on what the city wants to see.
Mr. Thomas, are you online with us? Still doesn't sound like he is. Well,
It
I'm-
says that he is. I don't know if he's having audio issues or not. But I logged in.
Or is he muted or,
It doesn't say that he's muted.
well, I'm not sure how we proceed without knowing what that plan is.
Right.
How we can comment on it.
So maybe some recommendations. I guess the first recommendation or the first comment, at least from the engineering staff side, is Miller Pipeline does a lot of work. Actually, Miller Pipeline and Indian American Water both do a lot of work within the city of Greenwood, and both are familiar and have experience with the city right-of-way utility cut permit process and ensuring that they submit the documents ahead of time prior to actually completing the work. There was a little bit of a miscommunication on the part of the utilities that would necessarily follow at this time. But we've worked with them, allow them to keep moving as they provided the information to us. I think it's important that going forward that the utility companies continue to submit all the documentation in advance so that it can be reviewed, so that the board has the opportunity to understand if there are going to be any impacts to traffic, especially on our major thoroughfares like Main Street, like Madison, and they have an opportunity to comment prior to that work being complete. That is the normal city process. And I know that generally with both Indian American Water and Miller Pipeline, we don't have issues. We just, for whatever reason, in this situation, kind of had it. So we're trying to get back up to speed. I guess we don't know exactly which dates they're considering, but in terms of the time, Jared brought up a good point with bus route times and rush hours.
Traffic.
So we're probably looking at if they had to do any restrictions or lane closures on Main Street, they could only do that between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Hopefully, avoiding the morning rush, being complete by even sort of that early school, early afternoon, evening rush timeframe.
Jared also mentioned a possibility of an overnight.
That would
Or Saturday.
be the board's consideration.
Yeah, certainly. I know they're currently working Saturdays right now to get this project done. So, Saturday would likely work as well. And obviously, before we proceed with doing these tie-ins and restricting traffic, we'll be certain to make sure that everyone approves of what the plan is.
A couple other considerations here. Fire Station 91 is just down Main Street. And so I think there's been a couple times that they've had to make a run, and I think Miller Pipeline's crews did stop traffic and allow the fire department to get through. So they have to continue that. Certainly be a main concern when they're on Main Street with that down to one lane, on whichever day.
I know John Thomas is trying to log in. Jeremy, are you seeing any issues with his audio?
No.
He said he's trying to speak, but it's not.
Well, it sounds like you're close to doing this and ready to wrap it up with just maybe these two ends. Is that correct, Jared?
Right, correct, yes. And then we have the restoration work as well that will follow.
So if we waited until the next Board of Works meeting, that just adds another layer of time that maybe just isn't necessary, in my opinion.
Plus, we're getting into bad weather about
Yeah.
patching asphalt.
Yeah, so I guess one question I would have, typically, again, we don't deal with the local permitting for these projects. We usually leave that up to the contractor. So I've never been involved in that historically. So is that typically the process where they would submit the permits, present the board as to what their MOT plan is and get approval from everybody before they proceed with the work? Is that normally how this would go?
The main driver to come before the board would only be if there were going to be any lane closures.
Okay.
And you're talking about just one lane at a time. Is that what
Yeah, that's my understanding, is they would just need to close down the one lane to do this work, and it would probably be a couple hours, 3 or 4 hours.
at both Main Street and over Madison Avenue, Serena Way?
Yes, but if doing it, I don't know if they do them at the same time. They'd likely do one day and then another one the next. So I don't think we close them both down. But again, we can work with you on, anything you think would be appropriate.
I don't have a problem approving it subject to those time restrictions that that you discussed. That either between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. during the week, or on the weekend, anytime.
Yeah,
or nights, anytime.
Yeah, and that's usually pretty standard for us on the tie-in times. We try to do it mid-afternoon because we're aware of traffic and schools and rush hour.
Terry, do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think just really, I think the engineering department knows what they need, what we expect, so, the board doesn't get calls, we don't get calls. I would just put it in giving Daniel the authority once the MOT plan's been looked at. Really a little disappointed that we've had, it seemed like several issues on this job already. I know we already had Main Street blocked one lane earlier last week, unbeknownst to anybody. I got calls from the public and also the fire department on that day. So, and there was nothing in place for that, so I don't know how many other times passed.
Yeah, and certainly, I apologize for that. I wasn't aware that they had not gone through the permitting process, but I think since then, we've been in close contact with Miller about getting that done, so.
For the board's consideration, if you were looking to give them approval to work at night, I don't know if there would be any wording relative to our noise.
Noise ordinance.
Noise ordinance.
It's right across from some residential stuff.
Yeah, I think the preference would be to do it between 9 and 3 if we can. The other issue that we run into, and we try to, buffer against this as best we can. If we get down there, for some reason, there's something that they need, and they need to call somebody and get it, it's usually best that that happens during business hours. But certainly we'll work ahead as best we can to have everything on site that we need. So we prefer 9 to 3 if we can. Saturday if we need to, and the overnight, we prefer to have kind of last resort.
Yeah, I would make the motion that we approve the request, subject to engineering approving the final MOT plan. And then further restricting between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, or anytime on Saturday, up to 6 p.m.
Yeah. Sunset's like 6:52 right now, so maybe say 7 if they get started later.
So
That'd be okay with me.
That's fine. I'd second that motion.
Okay. Further discussion, and that will include your discretion. And appreciate if you have questions that run that past Deputy Mayor. And hopefully we can get this done quickly and take care of it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Jerry.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I wish you could have heard from you, but you're there, you heard us, our motions. Anyone from the audience wish to address us? Hearing none, we'll move on to Mr. Hodson with your IDM compliance plan status update.
All those items were current on our reports, and we know of no issues.
Great, thank you. Your status of task?
First up is a consideration of contract for goods, fast signs. These are dedication plaques for various city projects. The total cost of this contract is $13,288.12.
Questions for Mr. Hodson? Is this just for a variety of places? Is that what I was able to glean from this?
And the elected officials who voted against the projects will be honored, as well as the people that actually contributed to them.
The recording is on.
I would move we approve the request for signs, fast signs. Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is consideration of Legislative Relations Council. This is the Barnes and Thornburg law firm, and these terms and conditions are exactly the same as last year.
I'll move for approval.
Second, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I have a walk-on, please.
Okay.
And this would be for the NASP folks. And this is more work associated with the Grassy Creek temporary drive that you approved at your last meeting. This is only $7,500, and the various services are described in the letter dated October 20th, 2021.
So what's the 28,115?
That's the total cost.
Okay, so this
2,500 feet of silk fence, that's $7,500. Another,
that's the only thing we're adding to this, is that correct?
right, before you approve burying a rail car to create a temporary bridge, this will be the drive to and from.
So all we're, in this letter we have in front of us, saying I'm not trying to be difficult, but I found it hard to understand. Total cost of this project is $28,115, and he's broken out the various costs. Is that correct?
Correct, and it appears that there is a management fee also of $2,600.
Okay, I had a question about that, because the comma up here to be in an unusual place.
Excuse me?
The comma up here to be after the 6. It's like another-
Yeah.
another 26,000 or 2600. Okay.
Oh, hold on a moment.
This one, we would ask you to allow the mayor to sign and make it subject to a formal contract from the city. Actually, the correction, Kevin, is not the comma, there's a zero missing. And it's not, on the letter, it's wrong. It isn't management fee, it's machine labor of $2,600. So the total cost is $54,115.
So we added $26,000 to what? The letter says.
$28,115,
Right.
yes. It is an unartful letter from NASP, but they've done very good work and
Yeah, I know their name. I was trying to read through this. Wasn't sure what we were doing. Okay. So the whole project is $54,115.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry to be dense on that. Other questions for Mr. Hodgson? Is there a motion for approval of this?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
I have one final walk-on, please.
Okay.
And this is not for approval or anything. This is a report to the board of works. At your last meetings, you instructed the staff to obtain bids to do some tree removal near power lines. We're still working with the power company. We believe this ought to be its responsibility. But in case we are not successful, we do have a bid for that work.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping up on that. Appreciate it. Anything else, Sam?
No, thank you.
Daniel?
I have one item. This is with the Home Depot on State Road 135. This would be to authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf to take the operations maintenance manual for water quality for this project.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Daniel. Greg, anything from your office?
Nothing for me.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rutherford?
I'll move for approval of the claims as.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all. We'll stand adjourned at 6:03 PM.